The Ireland team is out and excitement is building for the quarterfinals. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Andy Farrell has announced his 23 to take on the All Blacks at the weekend in quarterfinal number 2. This video is just a quick reaction to the team selection itself. We'll have an actual preview of that quarterfinal once the All Blacks team is out. I believe that's going to be out on Thursday. So what about this Ireland team? Well, it's fairly familiar to anyone who's watched this tournament. Most of these guys have played most of the games. So fullback, you got Hugo Keenan. You know, the guy, he really has added, I think, a lot more in his attack, you know, in the last year or so. And we've seen that in this Rugby World Cup as well. He's coming into the line a lot more and, you know, looking for work. He's still solid at the back. He still can be, though, you know, he's not impervious at the back. He still can be targeted at the back, and we might see that at the weekend. Right wing, then we got Mac Hansen, who recovered from a calf strain to play. They say that he's 100% fit. We'll see whether that's true or not, because you know we've seen with teams in this World Cup, including Ireland, where someone is named in a team or on the bench, and then you come to match day and suddenly they're not there anymore. So hopefully what they're saying about him is true, because I think him on that wing is very important for us, because you know he gives us something that some of the other wingers don't necessarily give, like, because it's just his all-around game, really. You know, you got maybe players who could have been selected for the World Cup who are maybe better finishers than him, or you know, who are better in the air, but I think all-around game, Mac Hansen just gives you that little bit more. And you know, it's what would Irish, you know, interviews be without a Mac Hansen there? Like, the guy, he's just gold dust when it comes to that. On to the centres then, we have Gary Ringrose at 13, Bundee Aki at 12. So Ringrose is really hitting his straps now in this World Cup. The lines he's picking, he's getting in behind, and then people, you know, they know now that what he's looking for in terms of when he's going to make a break, that they're going there to support him as well. So rather than maybe a year ago where we were seeing the likes of Ringrose or Aki or Henshaw making breaks through the middle, where it would kind of come to a halt because they get tackled and we'd be coming in to clear out. Now we've got guys coming on the shoulder looking for the offload. So you know, he's really benefited from that. And you got Bundee Aki next to him, who, you know, almost every game, you know, he's either been Ireland's player of the game or the player of the game, or he's in the conversation for it. He's had a fantastic Rugby World Cup. You know, Robbie Henshaw's, you know, loss is definitely Bundee Aki's gain in that regard, because I think if Henshaw had been fit, Bundee Aki, you know, he might have even have been in matchdays 23s, honestly, and not because he's not good enough, just because, you know, number 23, a lot of the time you want to cover more positions than just centre. So you know, he really has taken this chance to actually be a starter in the team. And we know through injuries everybody has kind of rotated. Those three have rotated, and then we had McCluskey in there as well. But Aki, he just seems to have taken his game to another level at this Rugby World Cup. Left wing, then we have James Lowe, who got that finger in the eye from Byrne, and you know, he seems to be okay from that as well. You know, so that's good news, because it was looking like we were losing, you know, our two starting wingers for this quarterfinal, and you know, there's a lot of talk about tons of Irish depth and etc. But if you look at our teams, you know, recently, like a lot of it, like, it's the same players, and the players backing up might be good, but they're still not the starters. And there's a reason why Hansen and Lowe are generally the starters on the wing, because again, just give that little bit more. Lowe gives you that massive boot that he has, and you know, with that as well, you have you know, just his ability to go looking for work, and he's obviously improved his defence after getting slated for a couple of seasons ago. And you know, I think himself and Hansen are really good at that, and actually going looking for work, but also not neglecting their duties. Like, they're not just kind of popping up everywhere. and then getting caught out because we've nobody back covering. But yeah, I'm really happy that he is starting. Got Johnny Sexton there at 10. He came back in this Rugby World Cup, and it's like he didn't miss a beat, and there's very few players that can actually do that. A lot of players, we saw Tyke Furlong, who's had to kind of build himself back up to test fitness, but not Johnny Sexton. He's been excellent. And I think the difference now with this Ireland team and the Ireland team of 2019, I felt like Joe Smith's Ireland was based around, Johnny Sexton running the show. And when Carberry or Carty come in, it didn't quite work as well. Whereas now, all of that, work in terms of being like a distributor or wherever, or calling plays and stuff, has been kind of decentralized, as it were. So that's why I think the likes of Hansen, Lowe, Keenan, Ringrose, etc., Bundy at key as well, all in there, all happy to call plays, all happy to be the dummy runner or the carrier or whatever. And it takes pressure off Sexton, but also takes pressure off the likes of Crowley when he comes in, or Byrne if he has to come in as well. But with all that said, Johnny Sexton, he may not be like the absolute, crucial part of this Ireland team anymore, but boy, does he make the team better when he's playing. So I'm very happy that he's starting 10. Jameson Gibson Park, kind of similar at 9. His ability just to move that ball and whip it out quickly from the base of the rucks and get it away from contact is crucial to Ireland, because we need that fast ball. We need these forwards coming onto the ball at pace, and not kind of standing around and not kind of wondering how quickly the ball is going to come. Is it going to be slow this time? Is it going to be fast? They know with him it's coming out fast. And I thought Ireland actually, just on that, did really well against Scotland, because we've seen Ireland and Leinster throughout this season where an opposition at the start have targeted the breakdown, and they've put players in knowing that Ireland will kind of stand in a wide line when they're on attack, rather preferring to have options rather than putting players into the ruck. But against Scotland, Scotland tried to do that, and Ireland immediately resourced the ruck better, and the ball was still fast. They may have had a few less players in terms of options, but they still had that fast ball. They still got on the front foot, and it felt like it was still the same type of Irish play as well. Into the forwards, then we got Andrew Porter at loose head. He had a kind of a mixed season for me through the URC, the few URC games that he did play, the Champions Cup and the Six Nations, because like from the Six Nations, still my one abiding memory of him is giving away 6 penalties in one game. But he's played himself into form through this Rugby World Cup. We need him on top form as well. He's gotten better and better every game. We need him to be better again on Saturday as well if we're going to win that. Dan Sheehan, it's great to have him back. Kelleher is kind of a similar player, but Sheehan is just kind of the plus player, as it were. He just has a little bit extra in everything. And then Herring is a great deputy to have there in there as well, in terms of the pecking order. But still, it's great to have Sheehan back, because he just has, again, that little bit extra in a lot of different areas that just makes him a very, very special player, I think. And then the fact that you could easily stick Sheehan out on the wing. That's how good I think he is. But he's got to do the basics. He's got to hit his men in the line out. If the line out starts going wonky, himself and it's probably going to be Henderson calling line out, right? Himself and Henderson, they've got to fix that out. Peter O'Mahony's in there as well. He's going to be helping with that, but they need to make sure that the line out functions. He's got to do his scrummaging as well, and then bring the fancy stuff all you want after that. Tyke Furlong at 3. He came back and played probably one of his worst games for Ireland on his return. I think that was against Scotland, right? It was either Scotland or England. I think he came back against Scotland off the bench and then played against England. But he looked really unfit in the Six Nations for the couple of games he played. It was similar for Leinster as well. Still didn't look like he was at top fitness. Through the warm-up games, he was getting fitter, and through the pool stages as well. And he's getting close to the point where I think he is, back to a level where we're used to seeing him. Where there's still not much of kind of the fancy footwork or handing three massive forwards off one after the other or anything like that. But he's doing his basics. He's scrummaging well. He's hitting his rucks, and he's still a willing carrier in the line. He's his passing is great. Like the guy can play 10 with the passing game that he has. So it's great to see that. And I don't mind if we don't see any of the fancy stuff from him at the weekend, as long as, again, like Sheehan, do your basics well and then get around the park and contribute there. The second row, then we've got no James Ryan. So he had his wrist injury just didn't get better, and if Ireland progress from this, which is a big if, but if they do, maybe he'll be back. I'm not too sure. But for now, we got Tadhg Beirne and Ian Henderson in that second row. Generally, those two don't play together because it's normally Ryan and someone else. That's how good James Ryan has been. Like since Spacey got that snub for the Lions, I think he buckled down and he just made himself really good at the unseen work. Like James Ryan, he hits every ruck, and he was a major part of why Ireland's ball was so quick. Was the amount of work that he got through in the game. Beirne and Henderson, similar to the way they did against Scotland, they got to do that against a better locking partnership at the weekend as well. Beirne is obviously going to give you that threat over the ball at the breakdown. He's a good carrier too. He looks for his offloads. Henderson, he's going to give you that the bulk in the scrum, but also that maul defence and maul attack. He's really an expert at that type of thing as well. So I expect Ireland's maul to go well at the weekend. Back row, then we got Peter O'Mahony there. Won his 100 cap against Scotland, and the guy was just phenomenal. And Peter O'Mahony, it's amazing for me with Peter O'Mahony, because there was a point there where there was kind of a transition. Like Peter O'Mahony's kind of from the from that era where the likes of O'Driscoll and those kind of guys were kind of on their way out, on O'Connell and stuff, and Peter O'Mahony was kind of around at the tail end of that, right? And then all of these new guys come in, basically like almost the entire pack, except for maybe Henderson, that are around them now are all kind of new guys, at least in my mind. But and we've seen like Ireland produce some amazing back rowers, but he's still been there all the way through it, and it just tells you how good a player he is, and the way that he basically keeps himself current and makes sure that he's valuable to the team. He's an amazing line-out option. He's busy around the park. He's another threat at the breakdown for winning turnovers, winning penalties, and like he loves to give lip as well on the field. And then beside him, then you got Josh van der Flier, last year's World Player of the Year. Still not up to that standard, but I saw against Scotland flashes of him getting close to that level again. And again, if we're going to beat this All Blacks team, I don't care about people saying, the All Blacks aren't as good as they were, but they're still an amazing team. They won 11 games straight, and you don't do that by being like a really poor team. They're not maybe up at those amazing heights that no other team could reach, but they're still a really good team. And if they get get on top of us, we could be in trouble. But people like Van der Flier, they need to step up, and he needs to show why he was World Player of the Year last year. And I think he's going to be up for that challenge. Talking about Player of the Year, I think Ireland's Player of the Year so far, at least, has been Caelan Doris. Guy's been amazing in that 8 shirt. He's, a willing carrier. He's been adding tries to his game as well. And, just his all-around play in terms of his carrying game. Looking to attack space, but also looking to make sure that he keeps the ball alive and not just kind of running up blind alleys. Work around the breakdown and stuff has been excellent too, and he's just a great part of what is a really good unit for Ireland. The replacements, then we got Ronan Kelleher there. Again, if he comes on for Sheehan, he's going to give you something similar to Sheehan, and with a bit of impetus towards the end. That's what you really want. You don't want, Sheehan going off after 20 minutes and Kelleher having to come on. Not that Kelleher would do a bad job or anything. It's just to have that impact off the bench. You need to be coming on in the last 20, 15 minutes, that kind of thing, where you've got tired legs, and someone like Kelleher, who's kind of similar to Sheehan, if he's coming on with fresh legs, if he gets a chance to break, he will. And then you got Dave Kilcoyne there, another guy who's kind of unsung really in the Ireland squad. He's been around the squad for a while, and never really been like, a first choice player. Like, he was kind of sitting behind Healy for a long time. And then, then Porter came along, and Porter switched from tight head to loose head. And then, he was down the pecking order again. But he kept his nose to the grindstone, as it were, and now he's kind of reaping the reward of that, and Ireland are benefiting as well, because the guy isn't a bad replacement to come on. He really can do a job there in the scrum. He's a decent scrummager, and I think he's improved his game around the park as well. Philly Bealham, for me, has probably been the best prop for Ireland this year. Had an excellent Six Nations, and again, I think if what I'm happy about is that if Furlong's form had dipped, and he hadn't recovered to the point where he's getting close to his best again, Bealham would have been able to step in and play there, and I would have been happy enough for him to be the starting tight head. Got Joe McCarthy there. He comes onto the bench for James Ryan. So, he's a young lad, but he's massive, and he really does, he gives you something different, because it was looking like it was going to be maybe Ryan Baird would be kind of the backup for covering back row and second row. And, Baird has a lot of really good points to him, like, he's crazy fast for a lock, but McCarthy I think he gives you more of the kind of the bread and butter type of stuff, just the regular, locking work. He seems to enjoy that. He's great in mauls, and he loves hitting rucks as well. So he's a great player to have on the bench, and someone, who'll come on looking to, to show why he's worth his spot in the team. Jack Conan there as well. Maybe, he's kind of unlucky with the riches that Ireland have in the back row, because he probably would have had a lot more starts if we hadn't had so many riches. He's such a good player, but great to have him on there. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he either comes on and scores a try, or comes on and offloads for someone to score a try later in the game. We've got Conor Murray coming on at 9. Conor Murray, for me, about maybe a year or so ago, maybe a little bit more than that, I thought he was finished at test level, honestly, because you saw all of these, other nines coming along, the likes of Cooney, Gibson Park, etc., and Casey at Munster as well. And Conor Murray was just falling further and further down the pecking order, where you thought, well, his test career is over, but he didn't really get a send-off that maybe he deserved, because he's been such an amazing servant to Ireland. But then, he completely reinvented himself, because I remember a year ago just being so frustrated about the fact that he would dither at the back of a ruck, trying to decide whether he was going to snipe, box kick, or pass the ball. And by the time he decided to do one of them, like, whatever opportunity that was there was kind of gone. And it was very frustrating, when he was the replacement 9, to go from the super fast service of Gibson Park then to what was a very slow service in comparison from Murray, and it really did affect the team when that happened. But he obviously, either somebody spoke to him or he decided himself to have a look at what was really needed for him to get back into the reckoning, to be in those 23s for Ireland, because now his service is fast again from the base of the ruck, and his decision making has quickened up as well. It was gonna box kick, unless it's one of those kind of train things or the caterpillars or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be fast, so that there's no chance of it being blocked down, and the it's so important as well with those kind of kicks that the wingers know when he's going to kick it, because if there's any delay, then they have to delay the run, and then they're not on full stride when the kick is actually going up. So I'm very happy again that he's obviously worked on that, and it's great to see a player at that point of their career being able to say, listen, there's still things that I need to learn and I need to get better at, and he's willing to put in the work and not just kind of sit back on his laurels. Got Jack Carty there then at 10. Or sorry, Jack Crowley. Jack Carty was 2019. Got Jack Crowley there at 22, coming on for Sexton at 10 at some point. I'm hoping he gets maybe about 20 minutes. Before 2019, if Sexton was fit, we had Carty and Carberry on the bench. I wanted Sexton to play maybe 79 of the 80 minutes. And it's not because that Carty or Carberry were terrible players. They weren't. They're good players and they have great things about them. It was that Ireland team worked with Johnny Sexton at 10, and sometimes it worked with the others at 10, but there was no guarantee on it. And both of them had that thing where they could make those errors, where we saw Carty kicking the ball dead, and that was basically the last time that he represented Ireland was making that mistake where he kicked the ball dead. Sexton has done it before as well, but he has so much credit in the bank that he can recover from that. But Crowley and even Byrne, who's not even in the squad today, I'm happier for them to come on at that stage. I think Sexton will have done what he needs to do. He probably have had a knock during the game as well, and we don't need him hobbling around the field. Get Crowley on there, get a bit of kind of youthful enthusiasm. The guy is showing that he's not scared to step back in the pocket and be ready for a potential game-winning drop goal as well. And that's great to see from such a young player, being able to take that responsibility on his shoulders, and not shirk it, not go hiding, and waiting for the forwards, or pretending he's waiting for the forwards to give him a better platform, where really doesn't want to take the kick. So I'm very happy to see him on the bench. Then Jimmy O'Brien, the only player so far in this Ireland squad who hasn't seen action in this Rugby World Cup. I think first of all, McCluskey is very unlucky to miss out on this. I thought he had an excellent game against Scotland. He'd come on so early and he was kind of on and off the field, but he slotted in seamlessly in there, and had some great contribution in the game as well. And he's a player who I really like his style of play, because he's not just a big guy who bashes it up. He's got a lot of subtlety to his game. He's got some great hands. He looks for the offload as well, and looks to bring in others around him too. So I think he's very unlucky to miss out. But Jimmy O'Brien, he gives you a lot of options in terms of where he can play. You could play him almost anywhere across that back line. So obviously the fact that both wingers went off last week probably had a major impact on who was picked at 23, because he can easily slot in on either wing. You can put him into the centres as well, and he's played a fullback before. Even at a stretch, you could put him in at 10. So he's obviously you wouldn't want to be putting him in a 10 against the All Blacks, though. But I think that's why he's at 23, and it's good to see him getting that game time as well, because he's one of those players who his versatility almost counts against him, because if he's going to be in a matchday squad, it's going to be at 23. He's probably not going to be a starter, because you're going to have a specialist who's going to, like the likes of Hansen or Lowe, who are going to be on the wing, and then you got Henshaw, Ringrose, Aki, McCluskey, all can play in the centres. So for him, 23 is almost his position at this stage. But that's the team. I'm super excited about this quarterfinal coming up. I think this is an excellent team that we picked. If they can't do it on the weekend, there's going to be no complaints from me about, we're missing Ryan or we're missing whoever, right? It's look at that selection there. There's very few players, who are missing from that team. And look at every team, every other nation in the Rugby World Cup. They've got at least as many players missing from the starting lineup as we do. We've probably been the most consistent in terms of our selection through our pool stages as well. So most of these guys have played, at least 3, and most of them probably 4 of the pool games. So there can be no excuses other than, if we lose against the All Blacks, that we just weren't good enough on the night.